Hey, this is Sarah Huff from ReAttached, and I am talking today with you about the 444A tax exemption. What is that? You should know if you own a home or are buying a home in Newburgh. It's a super helpful tax exemption program that is different from the state historical tax credit. So let's just jump in and get this straight. SHPO runs State of New York historical tax credits. That is not what I am talking about today. It's a completely different process. If you're interested, we can talk about that in a different video. There's a lot of paperwork and there are some consultants that I can recommend that make that a lot less painful. That's a tax credit, so that's something different. What we are talking about is the 444A tax abatement. So it is a state program that is electively administered by municipalities in the state of New York. Newburgh, New York happens to be a municipality that administers, like they do the 444A. It's available in Newburgh, New York. To qualify for it, there's a couple things that you need to have, or your house has to have, and you need to do. So number one is the house has to be located within the East End Historical District. If you're outside the historical district, sorry. I will link to the City of Newburgh map gallery below where you can find a map of the East End Historical District and tell where your house is if you're not sure. Number two, ding, you need to have done historical preservation work on the interior and exterior of your house. Because you're in the historical district, you need to have gotten an ARC approval for the exterior work that you did. The ARC is the Architectural Review Commission. It is a land use board for the City of Newburgh. There's 3 land use boards: planning, zoning, ARC. So you don't need to go to planning and zoning necessarily to qualify for the 444A tax exemption, but you do need to have an approval for the exterior work that you did for your 444A tax exemption application. You do need to have a decision letter from the ARC to include with your 444A tax exemption application. Gosh, technical details. Thirdly, the interior work that you did, at least some of it has to contribute to the historical preservation of the home. So if you were just gutting everything out and putting contemporary everything, blah, 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 probably not gonna swing. You gotta save the floors, save the trim, save the stairs, any plaster work, medallions, things like that. Historical details of any sort can get you in the mix for the 444A tax exemption. So how do you do it? I did all these things. Boom, boom, boom. I have all these things. Great. You're on the right track. Before March 1st of this year, after you have completely completed your renovation and closed out any building permits associated with it, you can troop yourself down to the tax assessor's office, which is located at City Hall on Broadway, and go into the tax assessor's office, which is, you go in the front door and it's the first right down a very short hallway, and then you take another right and the admin assistant for the assessor will be sitting right there waiting for you, and she can give you the application for the 444A tax exemption. You can also find it online. I'll link to that below. So you fill it out. It's a very simple application. I think all of it is one 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper. So you fill it out with basic information. This is your name. This is the property address. This is the work that you did in the general scope. And this is the amount of money you spent on the renovation. That form has to be in by March 1st. Very important deadline. If you miss it, you gotta wait until next year, which is fine. You'll just pay a little bit higher taxes maybe this year and then deal with it after that. So you turn it in, and basically what happens is, let's use a round number example. Let's say you bought a home and it was assessed for $100,000. Assessment, of course, can be a little bit different than what you bought the house for. So this is your tax assessment value, right? Also not your appraised value. Appraisal and assessment are different things. Keep it in mind. It's a real estate vocabulary issue, but it's just different things. So we're talking about your assessment, aka the value assigned to your home by the tax assessor that is used to calculate how much taxes you have to pay, what your tax bill is. So you bought a house that was assessed for $100,000. You did a bunch of work on it, preserving historical details inside and out, and for the exterior work you got an ARC approval. Good job. So then you troop it down, all of that gets finished, and the building permits get closed out. You fill out the 404A tax exemption form, you turn it in before March 1st. What happens is the tax assessor and their office will review, potentially come out to the house and see, okay, how much of the renovation budget went towards historical preservation. So let's say it was assessed at $100,000 and you put in $150,000 of work, and $100,000 of that was contributed to historical preservation. Great, amazing. This is all very theoretical. It doesn't necessarily work exactly like this with the numbers. Obviously, we're doing a round number example, so like easy does it on like, Sarah, you said if I bought a house for this is how it would work out. Not necessarily it's an example, just like PSA. So, okay. So the assessor will look at the application, and for the proportion of your renovation budget that contributed to historical preservation, you will not pay taxes on that amount, right? Even if your assessed value increases. So let's say you bought it and it was assessed for $100,000. You put the $150,000 into it, and now it is reassessed and deemed to be worth $300,000. Great. That would normally entail a big jump in your tax bill because it would entail a big jump in your assessed value from $100,000 to $300,000. However, let's say you get an abatement of $100,000. Right, because that $100,000 contributed to historical preservation, right? So instead of your assessed value on the books will still be $300,000, right? But you will pay taxes on 300 minus the abated 100. You will pay taxes on the $200,000. It's a huge, huge savings. That will go on for 5 years. And for the 5 years after that, your abatement will be reduced by 20% per year. So the long story short of it is you won't pay your full post-renovation tax bill until the 11th year after the renovation completes. Mind blown, it's huge. Now, of course, there are some things that you have to keep in mind. The abatement sort of floats, it is just subtracted from what the assessed value is. As you go along in that 10 years, your assessed value can still go up in the background. So if the first year after your renovation, and by the way, that would be a very unusual jump in assessed value, but it's a round numbers example. So don't be freaked out like, oh my God, I do a renovation, my assessment is gonna go up $200,000. I'm not guaranteeing that it won't, but it's quite extreme. So anyways, it gets reassessed at $300,000, and you have the abatement, so you're paying on the $200,000. Over the 10 years, your assessment can go up to $310. So then you would pay on $210. So while that 10 years is going, it's still important to monitor your assessment, file any grievances if you feel that the increases are not warranted, etc., or you feel that the value has gone down for some reason, etc. There is a different, an unrelated process for filing tax grievances that I can talk about in another video if you're interested. But that is the long and short of the 444A tax exemption. It is a very powerful tool in the City of Newburgh for controlling your tax bill, and it's very important, and I am consistently shocked and appalled. It's a pity that more people don't know about the 444A tax exemption because they could be saving a lot of money, and it is also a tool, an abatement program that can be used strategically. If you know you are going to be doing a renovation to a home, why not chip in a little bit more and fix a little bit more on the facade? I get it, it's a little bit of a pain to do the forms and go to the ARC with exterior, repairs, renovations. It might cost a little bit more to do, go a little bit over what you anticipated doing in the exterior. But the ARC, they don't bite. It's generally a very competent and helpful board. The application is $100. It's not so crazy to get there. It's just legwork. And you can save yourself a bucket load over 10 years on your taxes. So if you are contemplating doing a renovation, even if it's mostly interior, I would really think about how to maximize your tax benefits using the 444A tax exemption by maybe taking a little bit bigger of a chunk on the exterior or expanding your scope slightly, because you can potentially earn that money back in taxes that you don't have to pay over 10 years. So I hope this is a very helpful video. If you need clarification or more details or etc., please don't hesitate to reach out. The links I mentioned will be below. That should be helpful in picking your way through. But if you need more help buying, selling your home, if you're a past client, if you're a future client, and you want to know more about the 444A tax exemption, just reach out and we will be able to help you as much as we can. Thank you. Bye.